All right, back with my bro Ted Hahn again. Today, I think let's mix it up a little bit, Ted, because
That's not my real name.
yeah. Do we need the black screen around our face?
With the synthetic AI voice.
So since it's just us guys here, we could no, seriously, a lot of patients a lot of patients are coming in and they're asking questions about testosterone levels, and a lot of them are on synthetic testosterone.
Sure.
And we all know that there's some bad ramifications of synthetic testosterone that can be a problem, and I know people are searching for all kinds of different things, but can we talk about it from a common sense point of view?
Sure. It's interesting you mention that, because it is a big deal, and the main thing that contributes to lower testosterone levels today is our environment's changed. And so if you think back, men used to be able to father children into their 70s. And probably Mick Jagger still is.
Probably. Moses too, right?
but in all seriousness,
that sounds awful.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to father a child in my 70s. It'd be nice to be able to, but doing it, no. Here's the thing. Something has changed. So I remember when I was in grade school and high school, you basically had two classes of kids, jocks and skinny kids that jocks beat up. I was in the second group, sadly.
You?
Yeah, I started lifting weights and changed that, but
that's
but genetically, I was in the skinny kid that gets beat up once a week because his mouth writes checks his body can't cash.
I had the same thing. I was on the beach with my girlfriend, and this big buff guy kickstand on me, and my girlfriend just laughed, and then I worked out all year long and went back the next
Charles
year.
Atlas had that really happened to you?
Yeah, well, I'm at the beach the next year, and same thing happens. This big guy comes over. I've been working out all year, and kickstand on me again. My girlfriend laughs. This time I took her out. No, I'm kidding. No. Okay,
Alrighty then.
sorry, no.
So
might need to edit that one.
The point I'm making is, there were kids that were muscular and athletic, and kids that were skinny. You didn't have too many overweight kids.
Yeah.
And we're talking guys here. So, I had a son, and I'm picking my son up from school, grade school, can't drive yet, it's not that age yet. I would say 70% of the male kids his age were overweight. And not just overweight, they had
obese,
what we call feminine fat deposition. That means fat on the butt and the upper hamstrings, on the chest, back of the arms, and on the gut too, but guys aren't supposed to get fat here and on their butts. Guys get a gut, and that's usually the extent of it, but these male children had female fat deposition. And that's when my eyes really opened and realized, okay, there's something wrong with our food, with our environment. Male children are getting feminized in their adolescence, and females are reaching puberty way, way, way earlier than they used to.
Yes.
They're starting to grow breasts at 8 or 9 years old.
So glad I don't have a daughter.
Yeah, so what would cause those effects?
Endocrine disruptors in the
Endocrine
environment.
disruptors, endocrine mimics and disruptors. And for some strange reason, no one's been able to figure out, much of the toxicity in our environment and our food on a molecular level is shaped like estrogen. So if that's happening to kids, when you look at guys that are between your age and my age, think of how much estrogen they must have in their bodies from things like pesticide residue, fertilizer residues, antibiotic metabolites, plastic compounds, all these different things. Plastics is huge, and they have an estrogenic effect on male physiology. So back in the late 50s and early 60s, they found that men that were working in plastic factories, who were breathing in atomized plastic dust all day long, started actually growing female breast tissue. I mean, with milk ducts in it, not just fat on the chest, but actual breast tissue, gynecomastia.
I would never leave the house.
I'd be in front of it. Let's not go there. Because I can. So plastics have a profound effect on our physiology. And in these big, giant, floating plastic garbage islands in the South Pacific,
Oh, it's so disturbing, dude.
the fish that live under those things to take shelter from the sun and predators
They grow
are all
breasts, too.
they're all female. No, there's no male fish. In environments that are saturated with plastic pollution and residue, particulate matter from decomposing plastic in landfills that gets into the water, the amphibians, frogs, salamanders, toads, they're all female.
You're gonna be scaring the hell out of a lot of people with this conversation, including me.
The truth is often scary. So, in men and women, we hear of women being estrogen dominant. That doesn't mean your body's making too much estrogen. It means that all the other outside compounds, the xenoestrogenic compounds, that means estrogen outside the body, that we're taking in and the things we drink and the things we eat are all adding to this estrogenic load. And the great majority of the time, it's not necessarily that men have low testosterone, it's that their testosterone is counterbalanced by way too much estrogen. And believe it or not, males are supposed to have a little bit of estrogen in their physiology. We don't have ovaries to make it, so we produce an enzyme called aromatase, or estrogen synthase, and that converts a tiny bit of testosterone into estrogen for our physiologic needs. And you might ask yourself, why does a man need to make estrogen at all? It's what keeps you out of adult bookstores and theaters that show questionable movies.
I was going to say, so
It modulates sex drive.
symptoms of low T or high estrogen would be, I can't decide what shoes to wear in the morning. And actually, there was a study of they took mice, right? So female,
Mice
male,
don't wear shoes.
male mice, and they put them through a maze. So the males like took half the time to get through the maze as the women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they gave the female rats testosterone injections and it evened out. So I always tell Christy about her being directionally challenged. It's okay, honey, you just don't have enough testosterone. Okay, so yeah, so symptom wise, we're talking the same thing. We're just talking like
A man that's low in testosterone, obviously there's going to be bedroom issues, but more commonly, believe it or not, is fatigue, indecisiveness, bitchiness.
Okay, you can say
I don't know any other way to say it.
We're already in trouble, dude.
I know. Oversensitive, moody, not a lover of physical activity. We're painting a picture here. It's not just low testosterone. It's that it's counterbalanced by all this estrogen, which is binding to testosterone receptor sites in the male physiology and preventing testosterone from binding. So it's kind of like trying to find a parking space at the mall on Christmas Eve. There aren't any. You drive around and around and around. You can't park anywhere. Testosterone's doing the same thing. It's trying to bind to cellular receptor sites in male physiology that facilitate all the wonderful things testosterone does, but it can't find a parking space because it's all the receptor sites are plugged up with xenoestrogens.
So I know, like, I've used some herbal products that work really well, and we can talk about that. So let's talk about solutions. So get the plastics out of our food as much as we can. Right?
Sure.
So, plastic water bottles, all that. And I know it's like, it was BPA, and now it's another, and they go, oh no, now it's this, but then they find out, well, that one's bad, and then whatever. Like, I just think, like, plastic in general, we probably should keep it away from our food.
You should, but the stuff is ubiquitous. It's really hard to get completely away from it.
Yeah.
So part of fixing male physiology is, number one, helping the body to dump all that xenoestrogenic toxic. So what are we going to do that? We're going to support the liver with things like cruciferous vegetables, or if you want to use a product, Cruciferous Complete. That will help clear those receptor sites of those estrogenic metabolites, and then you use other compounds like tribulus, or our newest one, Tangat Ali.
That's bomb.
And these things will, like the tribulus, will increase testosterone production to an extent. But here's the riddle, okay? Hormones are carried by hormone transport systems. They don't just go into the blood and go wherever they're supposed to go. They're carried there by lipid or protein compounds that act, for lack of a better term, like a taxi cab. So they take them from where they're produced in the testes or the ovaries, the pituitary, or wherever they're produced, and they drive them to their destination, and hopefully release them and let them get out and bind to the cell wall. So testosterone, excuse me, is either bound to a protein carrier mechanism or unbound, free to attach to the cells and do all the great things testosterone does.
And that's why we look at that on lab work.
Right, and this stunned me. The average male, and this is, estrogenic compounds aside, the average male that's producing testosterone has 80% of it bound at any given time.
So it's hanging out there until
it's waiting for the need. And
riding
then
around an Uber, right in circles.
Yeah, the Uber is a compound called sex hormone binding globulin. And what we want sex hormone binding globulin to do is release that testosterone so it can bind to the cell walls and do all the great things it does. But the older we get, the more sex hormone binding globulin we make. And if our liver's not working great, the body's gonna produce even more of it. So then you have all this testosterone, but it's bound, you can't use it. So what Tongat Ali does is it facilitates the uncoupling of testosterone from sex hormone binding globulin, and then you can use it.
I did not know that, Ted.
Yeah, it's cool
I
stuff.
know it works. I didn't know how. I mean,
now you know how. And what's interesting is, you may be given an arbitrary reading on your testosterone levels. Let's say between 30 and 70. 70 is high, the levels of a teenager, 20-year-old, and 30 is
I want to go back there.
right, 60, 70-year-old man. Well, what that doesn't answer is, okay, well, regardless of what the testosterone levels are, how much of it's free?
Exactly.
Because men have different physiologies. Some guys may operate just fine at 40 or 50. You give them 70 and they're going to be a deviant.
Yeah.
Other guys, if they're at 40 or 50, they've got no sex drive at all. So it depends on the individual's physiology. It's not you can't just use a number and apply that to everybody. So really the question is, all right, yes, how much testosterone are you producing, but how much of it is bound and how much of it is counterbalanced by estrogen? So kind of a three-pronged attack here. We would use cruciferous complete or SP green food to help the liver clear out all that estrogenic garbage that's hanging onto those receptor sites. And we would use tribulus to increase testosterone production a little bit. And then we'd use Tongat Ali to make sure that what testosterone is produced is actually liberated from sex hormone binding globulins so you can actually use the stuff.
It sounds like a little safer approach than just shooting yourself in the butt with a needle with synthetic testosterone.
Well,
right?
That would be great if it didn't have side effects and create biochemical dependence. So in other words, you have the part of the brain called the hypothalamus that kind of oversees the chemical status of the blood and the organ and tissue systems. So if you're injecting a bunch of testosterone enanthate or cypionate into your butt cheeks and the hypothalamus goes, hey, we've got a whole bunch of testosterone in the blood, I'm going to tell the pituitary to tell the testes they can go to Tahiti on vacation because we don't need any testosterone right now. We've got plenty. So what happens is you get testicular shrinkage, and the testes literally downregulate the amount of testosterone they produce. And the guy may say, well, so what? I'm getting injected anyway. What difference does it make? The difference it makes is that injected testosterone can cause hair loss, acne, high blood pressure, blood clots, all these different things.
Hey, the first part was enough for me.
Right. And so then you go, okay, well, God, now that I've learned all that, I want to get off testosterone. Well, the boys went on vacation. They're not coming back anytime soon. So when you get off the synthetic testosterone, then you're just flatlined. And so then it takes literally months to build the endocrine system back up and get testosterone levels back up to normal again. And it's a long, slow process. And most guys go, you know what? I can't handle life like this. I'm just going to get back on the injections.
Yeah.
So it just
That
creates a
protocol is
cycle of
so
dependence.
simple, right? I mean, it's a simple protocol, changed tons of people's lives. And, I just have this idea of our society has gotten comfortable with it's normal for everybody to be sick, and they just assume that once you get a certain age, then I don't know,
Everything goes to hell.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
it's not the years, it's how good the years are, right?
Yeah, I mean, as we've said before, there's really almost nothing you can't at least improve with nutrition, if not fix entirely over time.
Yeah.
And the difference between going to a Western medical doctor and going to a really good chiropractor that has a great encyclopedic knowledge of nutrition like yourself is Western medical does give you instant results, but those instant results come with a price, because what drugs do is they up or down regulate physiologic activities, or they suppress or accelerate them. What they don't do is get to the root cause of the problem that caused the dysfunction in the first place.
And how long, typically, how long before people, if you gave them this protocol, how long would it take before they'd notice a substantial difference?
In all the clinical studies they did, particularly of the Tongat Alley, you were essentially looking at 2 months. And most guys feel a difference before 2 months, but to really be rocking and rolling on all 8 cylinders is going to take about 2 months.
Yes.
Like when I started taking it,
that's not that long.
No, when I started taking it, I was looking for strength gains. I still had to work out, and there was nothing for, how long was it? About 6 or 7 weeks. I thought, this stuff doesn't work. And I was like, no, idiot. The studies said 2 months minimum. So be patient. Guys aren't patient with this stuff.
And then boom.
But when it kicked in, it was like time to add plates to the bar. It
Nice.
worked. It wasn't gradual. It was like one day it was not there, the next day it was there.
It's there.
And it's been there ever since, and I've periodically gotten off it without any losses of strength.
Though.
Yeah. So good stuff, but yeah, give it about 2 months, because you can't. And again, here's the difference between Western medical and nutrition. Nutrition is building, repairing, nourishing.
It's working with human physiology.
Right.
And you have limitations in human physiology.
And that takes time.
Right.
When you build a house, they don't bring it in a helicopter and drop it on the pad and bolt it to the foundation and you're done.
Yeah.
That's drugs.
Yeah.
You have to build the house. And it's very similar with increasing our health through nutrition. It's a building process. Building processes take time. When you're just masking or eliminating symptomology, well, yeah, you can do that in 40 minutes. But you're not addressing the reason the physiology is screwed up in the first place. And that's the real problem. And that's the difference between chiropractors and Western medical. Success in the day of a Western medical doctor is having a patient say, hey, I feel better. And that's the end of it.
Yeah.
But I've got this weird side effect. Well, wait, there's another drug for that.
Or your numbers look really good on the lab.
Right.
Oh, it's okay. You still feel like crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Numbers look good on the lab.
In the chiropractic world, we correct the things that are wrong physically, anatomically, nervous system, bones, and we supply the nutrition to facilitate making those physical adjustments stick. And that's how you fix people. That's why you do what you do. And if people could just understand that the nutritional road to health is a journey, and it takes time, rather than something they can do instantly, like with
most
drugs.
people, it took them a long time to get where they're at. Too.
Yeah, exactly. So, like you said, 2 months is nothing. If it took you, 20 years to get to the miserable state you're in,
Yeah.
if you can reverse that in 2 months, I mean, my God, who can't wait 2 months to do that? I barely could.